Hey guys, welcome back to another unboxing and review video. So up today we have the new 2019 Game of Thrones Mega Construx Black Series Iron Throne set. So the set includes 260 pieces. It's got 4 named characters from the series, and then what you see in front of you obviously is the completed product. So we'll do some housekeeping up first. So this set was actually purchased in my local Target about a week ago. So these started popping up in stores. They had the Iron Throne set, they had the White Walker Battle set, and then the the Drogon set with Daenerys. So all sets that Mega currently has available for the Game of Thrones license were available at my Target. So if you're looking for these, my suggestion would be to either check out their website or to go to your local Target, because more likely than not they're going to have these in stock. So we'll take a look at the packaging first. What I really enjoyed about this is, again, Mega goes back to having, that really nice display art, but in addition to that, we see that window style packaging for all the figures, right? So we have Cersei, we have the Night King, we've got Daenerys Targaryen up top, and then we've got Jon Snow. What's nice about Jon is, so this is our second release of Jon, as well as Daenerys, but both of them come in different costumes or different attire. This is from their King's Landing, if you watch the final series for it, their attire for the that final battle scene on King's Landing. So that's a really nice addition. Before we take a look at the Iron Throne, let's take a look at the figures. So again, similar to what we saw in the window style packaging, we get our Jon Snow with his long claw. From what I can tell, everything accessory wise, the sword as well as the face mold is the same mold that we had from the White Walker Battle set. The only difference, however, is his attire, right? So this is his armor, is set up to where it was at the very end of that Battle of King's Landing, which was really cool. That was a really cool episode. Not a fan of how the series ended by any means, but I like to see that they did an updated armor variation for this. This allows him to have a lot more articulation than the first release of him, with all the the wildling clothing on, which was very hindering for articulation. So this is nice to get this version of him a little more articulated, a little easier to get him in some poses, and I really like the color schematic and just kind of printing for his chainmail. So that looks really nice. Next up is Daenerys. So Daenerys, again, they've done a phenomenal job with these figures, their face molds, and the paint applications. It looks great. I can't. This is again the second release, so she's in a different dress as the Drogon set. But it just looks phenomenal. The paint work on her dress is really nice. Interesting enough, so they aren't using crotch pieces anymore, so the legs have a tendency of kind of rolling or falling out of the peg. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer. They've done this for both Cersei and Daenerys, so I don't know what the deal with that, but that's kind of my only gripe for the female figures. Next up is Cersei. So again, what really kind of blew me away was the fact of these are 2 new paint, I guess 1 new head sculpt, because Daenerys, Jon Snow, as well as the Night King have all been repackaged, but all of them are very crisp, very clean paint applications, head molds. Looks really good. You can see Cersei is actually molded, her head's molded with her crown, so that looks really good. Really crisp paint application for her lips. And even around her shoulders, right? So you get that really nice detail, that kind of gold-ish, grayish detail. So really nice looking figure overall. I'm very happy with it. Camera's having a hard time focusing. But yeah, and again, same as Daenerys, she has the same, if I can get her dress lifted up, has the same kind of weird issue where there's no crotch piece, so it's just a little bit awkward, but that's the only issue that I've seen with the female figures. And then of course we have another Night King. So this is the same release that we got from the White Walker Battle set. A lot of people were pretty upset with them due to the translucent head and hands for it. This isn't how he was released or shown or portrayed in the TV series. So it's interesting that Mega had decided to go this route. Again, there's some dry brushing techniques for it. However, it doesn't look very good, and I know a lot of people aren't very happy with it. With this inclusion of the Night King, instead of having a ice spear, we have some type of ice scythe is what I'm assuming this is. It's not quite a sword. It's so really out of proportion for the for the characters. This is now the second time that we've had a Night King weapon that is grossly out of proportion for the figures. I don't know what Mega's doing. It couldn't be that hard. They obviously pre-molded a new weapon for Jon Snow, so I don't think it would be out of the question to do something similar for the Night King. But again, that's my 2 cents. Let's get into the main build of the set. So this is the Iron Throne. As you can see in front of you, it uses a lot of grays, a little bit of beige browns for the back wall, and then some rod pieces to get that final top portion. So I just want to talk about the build for a second. So the base is all, we can look underneath it, is very cheaply, in my opinion, built and kind of put together. So they're normal, like 2x10s, 2x4s, the curved pieces and all that. But I will say just the feel of the bricks, and this was kind of the quality for the entire set. I'm a huge Mega Construx fan. I have a lot of the Halo sets. I have pretty much every single Call of Duty set since the series has been released. And what I've noticed about with these bricks is they feel a lot cheaper. They feel like almost like quality of if you ever collected the 2010 like Halo Mega Blocks, where the pieces weren't quite fitting together. They just felt cheap. They didn't really go together well with Lego. That's kind of the quality that this feels as though. I mean, everything fit together with a little bit of effort, but again, it feels very cheap. There's a shiny gloss on every single piece, and then I don't know. It feels a lot cheap, like a lot cheaper than some of the other sets. The biggest kind of disappointment for me on this set had to do with the actual Iron Throne set itself. So on the chair side pieces, so this guy, this back piece, and then on this set, these are all pre-molded sets, or they're pre-molded pieces that then have clips that you place in at 5 different locations, and then you place a sword. So when you take the sword off, this is all just a pre-mold piece up there. And so that was a little bit of a disappointment in the sense that they could have done a lot more to build this up a little bit more with Mega's inventory to get the same inclusion of set without having to use so many pre-molded sets. I think the pre-molded pieces kind of take away from the architecture as well as the build, but overall still looks very nice. I did like the inclusion that they had the candles for the sides of the Iron Throne, and then in addition up top, probably the coolest part is we get this like magnifying glass section right here that you can display whoever decides to or who is currently in position of the Iron Throne, right? So obviously I'm a Targaryen fan, Team Targaryen all the way. So I've got the Targaryen flag up. In here on the package, you see obviously the Lannisters, and these can all be swapped out. It's a little difficult, but they can all be swapped out with the pieces from the back. So you have the Night Kings, you have House Stark, and then you have Lannister. And what's really cool about this right here is so they have this little type of sliding area that you can hold the other the other pieces and then kind of clip them into a peg system. So they stay back there, they're out of the way, they take a very low profile, so it doesn't take too much space, and they can all be stored together, so that's very nice. The only gripe that I have for this is that in order you have to kind of rotate the sucker out. I'm not going to do it because it's just kind of a pain in the butt to pull it out. Then you have to pop out the magnifying piece and kind of get it all back together. And the rod system, how this is set up on the back, it's very nice in the sense that it looks very aesthetically pleasing, but it's not very sturdy. So we have the issue of whenever you pop this sucker out to get it, everything kind of shifts a little bit. The pieces up top tend to move, so it took a little bit of maneuvering to get it to where it's at right now. But overall end product does look very nice for a display, like a displayability type aspect. Again, personally, my gripe for it is the the pre-molded pieces, right? I'm not a fan of having such a large portion of the build basically be one piece. The Iron Throne set itself was a very quick build, and as you can see too with how the seat is set up, that you actually have to peg the troops in, or characters in, to get them to sit in here, because they won't sit with themselves on it. But overall, again, displayability of this guy, it looks really good. Very, even from a little bit of a distance, having those pre-molded pieces, it kind of it blends in a little bit, and so it's one of those things where it might not be that big of a deal for you. However, for me, that is kind of a very big annoyance for the set. When looking at this set as a whole, purchasing it, what really drove me into getting this set was the versions of Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen from the King's Landing sets, right? So like this, having these two molds in their attire that they have right now, this was the reason and the drive for me for wanting to get this set. The Iron Throne obviously is a great piece. It's one of the most iconic aspects, or pieces to Game of Thrones. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, if you know about Game of Thrones, I guarantee you know about the Iron Throne, right? So it's a really cool inclusion that Mega decided to do for one of their first early on sets with the Game of Thrones series. So very, very pleased with the end result. I think it would have been a little bit better if Mega's quality control for it was a little bit better, in the sense that the bricks just feel cheap. The everything getting put together felt a little cheap. It's not up to the Call of Duty quality in that sense, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong about this, but that is how I felt about it. It would have been nice to see an inclusion with the Night King, either a different face mold, because I know that they had it when they showed on Toy Fair. They had a few different releases of the King or the Night Kings. So it would have been nice to get a different inclusion of that, different face mold. Cersei's very nice inclusion as well. I think it's obviously you can't have the Iron Throne without Cersei, so that is a good set. And overall, for $30, you can tell where the money went, right, to the licensing. Obviously, to the characters, we have 4 named characters for the set. So when looking at that as a whole, my understanding, at least my opinion for it, is most of the money for this set probably went to licensing to get those figures and those those named characters for the set. So I guess going back to whether or not purchasing this, passing on it, out of the 3 sets available right now, out of the Drogon, the White Walker Battle set, and this, personally, if you're only going to pick up one, this is the set that I would pick up. And the reason why I say that is the fact that you have all of the named characters, right? So the idea for why you would want Drogon, yes, it comes with Drogon, but unfortunately, that's at that time, it was the only way to get Daenerys. You have Daenerys in this set through the Iron Throne set. You also have a better version of Jon Snow, in my opinion, due to articulation. He's not hindered with the wildling clothing, so this is a really nice inclusion for that. And then you obviously get Cersei, right? So Cersei, with the Lannisters. So overall, when looking at the Game of Thrones just license so far with the 3 sets they have available, this is my opinion, this is the set to go for if you're only going to get one. The price point was $30. It's very reasonable given what's packaged in this for the time being. I would, right now, if you're looking for this set, I know Amazon does have this available for pre-order, but unfortunately it's not available till like December 20th. So I don't know if Target just has a timed exclusive for this set or whatnot, but I would kind of steer clear of going obviously on eBay or anything like that, because prices are getting a little bit outrageous. With that being said, guys, I don't have a lot else to say about the video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment if you have the set. Let me know which figure out of the set is your favorite, obviously, or the house you support. I'm a Targaryen fan, so shout out in the comments below. If you guys are new to the channel, please think about subscribing. I try to get content out as regular as possible, but a lot of that depends on Mega's distribution. So as soon as I'm able to get these things, I do review them. With that being said, guys, I'll catch you next time. Bye.